everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Matta Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. You're busy doubting yourself while others are afraid of your freaking potential. Who else can relate to that quote? Because I know that I can. I also know that these doubts we have can lead us into a scarcity mindset and can create these vicious cycles of constantly doing more and more and more in order to help us think that we might be overcoming this fear of failure, this fear of never being enough. Sadly, you guys, doing more is not going to get you to where you want to be. And if you really want to tackle the demons, it's going to take intentional work on your headspace to get there. And that is what we are talking about today, are mindset shifts and tips to keep you from overtraining and burning out, and therefore focusing on what truly matters. So I'm really excited to jump into that conversation with y'all. But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about the taco of the week. So Dave and I cooked a stuffed butternut squash recipe over the weekend. And it had ground chicken, it had, I think, chopped pecans, cranberries. Again, it was like roasted in butternut squash, like we roasted butternut squash in the actual oven. And the seasonings that we put on our ground chicken was just so tasty. So it inspired me to create the taco of this week from that. So I'm bringing to you a healthy, delicious version of chicken cranberry tacos. If you are super stoked on trying that, please be sure to check out the show notes before you leave the episode today. All right, let's jump on in. So I'm thrilled to have this conversation because this is also a great conversation that I need to continue to have with myself as I build over the next 5 to 6 weeks into World Championships. But where this was inspired from, doing this topic, was a conversation that I recently had with one of my athletes that I'm training for DECA World Championships. And just have been having a lot of conversation with the girls that I'm training for Worlds, and they're all starting to feel the pressure of the time ticking down, and they're all starting to question, will I be ready? Will I have done enough in order to show up in the way that I want to show up on the big day? One in particular has told me on multiple accounts that she is afraid of letting me down, of letting the team down. And there have been some really powerful conversations that I've had with her and some things that I've shared with her that have really resonated and have helped her shift her perspective to something much healthier as she continues to finish out her build to World Championships. And so I wanted to get on the podcast this week and share a few of those things that I have been having conversations about behind the scenes, along with some other tips to help you prevent stepping into this burnout and overtraining phase, because we all know that's going to take us absolutely nowhere. So with that being said, I have 4 things that I want to throw out to you guys, and I really hope that this helps you and resonates in some way, shape, or form. The first thing is mentioning a conversation that I actually had earlier this year with my coach, Kevin. And I remember it was like a day where I had a lot of volume. And I reached out to him and was like, hey, I did what I could. My body and my mind was mentally not there, was physically not there. I did not feel like it was productive for me to keep going. Nor did I have much whip to honestly keep going. And so, sorry, I didn't make it through the entire workout that was planned, but I gave the best of what I was able to give for that day. And essentially, what he told me was something that will forever stick with me in my mind. And that is, you know that you are an elite athlete when you are able to pull the plug, not because you are lazy, but because you don't let your ego get in the way and therefore mitigate these risks of getting hurt, of overtraining, burning out, etc. And that really meant a lot to me, right? Because we look at these elite athletes in our space, or even like these top performers, right, in the business world, And you just see them constantly on the go. And we think that we constantly have to perform at that level, right? Or at least what we're seeing on social media, especially in this hustle culture that we freaking live in. We just think that we got to go and go and go and do more and do more and do more. And that's what creates the best of the best. Now, I do believe that practice and intentional repetition for sure are going to get you to where you want to be and where you need to be. However, to think that we need to smash ourselves into the ground every single day is just totally faulty reasoning. And I will go head to head with anyone else that wants to disagree with me on that. We can't. Physically, mentally, emotionally, we cannot do that. Something else that I remember specifically is listening to a podcast. I believe it was on the Running Public. Sorry, I just totally butchered that. But on the Running Public, Kirk and Bracken talked about how often should you go to the well in your workouts. And they said maybe once every other week, maybe once a month, because we're just not meant to go there. And if we go there every day, we are just totally burning out every single bit of energy that we have. And what is that going to create? That's going to create injury. That's going to create sickness. That's going to create the inability to get back to training the next day. There's so many other things that will spiral from there in a downward direction that it's just not worth it, you guys. And so I'm here to share this and tell you guys that you need to give yourself permission to pull the plug and know that it's not the end of the world. In fact, that it could be the thing that's saving you, and it's the smartest thing that you can do. Find peace in knowing that you don't need to smash yourself into the ground or go super hard every single day, that you get the choice to listen to your body and what you need most. Now, if you are struggling with that mental conversation in your head and just struggling with the ability to figure out, am I pulling the plug at the right times? Here's the question I would ask you is the training session that you're going after, is it something that you're afraid of and have fear around doing the work that it'll take in order to get the session done? If so, if you feel like it's mostly coming out of fear, dig into that further and mentally work into those blocks. Like working those mental blocks out is so much more productive than just trying to jump into a workout and push as hard as you can and just ignoring what really matters, which is the conversation that's going on in your head that's going to stay in your subconscious and continue to impact you from session to session to session, right? So ask yourself, is this something that you're just afraid of doing the work? Is it something that you're afraid of failing on? And you're just like, well, if I don't do well here, it's just highlighting that I'm not ready, that I'm never going to be ready. If you're finding yourself having those conversations, well, then maybe it's not that you need to pull the plug on the workout, but you need to take the time to do the work in your head first before you attempt the workout, right? If it's the latter where you're just like, I'm not necessarily looking forward to the pain, but more importantly, like my body just feels tired and I feel weak and I just don't have that whip mentally to go there, then guys, that's a sign that you're probably in a space where you need to rest and you need to chill. And here's the best thing, you guys, is you can still do something. I always tell my clients that I work for or that I serve in the weight loss space is when you struggle to just get started, all you got to do is just take one step, right? Start with the warm-up. And if you get 10 minutes through the warm-up and you're like, I still feel like complete crap, listen to that. Don't guilt yourself into doing more. Listen to that. And then allow for yourself to take the appropriate steps from there. It's super freeing when you give yourself the choice to have that conversation. And the more that you do that, the better that you get at calling out your own bullshit, quite honestly. But the more you start to trust yourself, right? And that is the true win at the end of the day. So just give yourself the permission, you guys, to pull the plug and just know that this workout isn't going to be the end of the world if you don't do it to the fullest. But what could be the end of the world is you pushing too hard and you going into a dark space that, again, could lead to injury, that could lead to overtraining, burnout, things that are not going to allow for you to continue to elevate. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention. Second thing that I wanted to mention is going back to the conversation with my athlete that I'm training for Worlds. And one thing that really stuck out to me that we really honed in on was this feeling of needing to cram because she feels that she is behind. And I told her this. I told her, you're behind in relation to what? In relation to whom? Are you comparing yourself to yourself from a few months ago when you first started doing DECA? Or are you comparing yourself to your competitors and other people in the space that you're anticipating that might do better than you? I know that we are quite literally racing against others, and that's kind of the reason that we're doing this to some standpoint. But at the end of the day, you guys, we cannot control what they will do and how they will show up on comp day. So why in the world would we spend our precious time during our training and our energy on comparing ourselves to them? It's dumb and it makes no sense, right? But we're so good at doing it. The only thing that we can control is our attitude and our energy given. So what we need to do in these moments is to be proud of the work that we put in. We need to do the things that are going to make us proud of all of the energy and time that we put into what it is that we're shooting for. So one thing that I like to do is I like to think of a previous race version of myself. I used to think of myself when I first started. I'm a little bit leaps and bounds ahead of that person now. So I'll think of myself even at the beginning of this year before I started training with Underdog. And I think of that version of me. And I compare to that. I compare to how far I've come. And this isn't just like, well, I'm able to get 25 calories done in almost 30 seconds now. Like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I'm pretty freaking stoked on that. But I think of, again, like those mental things, like the conversation I had with Kevin. I'm able to say, you know what? I don't need to do another round of this workout because this isn't going to benefit me. This is going to send me into a wrong direction. Like, I'm celebrating those things about how far I've come as a person and the way that I approach my training and the way that I approach my competitions. So that's what I ask for you to do in these moments, is to think of a previous race version of you and compare your current self to that. How far have you come? What got you to this point? What are you so stinking proud of, right? That's going to put your headspace in the right spot and create a healthy comparison versus the non-healthy comparison to externals that you will never be able to control. So if you feel the pressure and you feel like you need to cram as a byproduct of that pressure, you're probably comparing yourself to other people and to other expectations that are just not serving you. So how can you remove those and compare yourself to a previous self of you and get yourself back into a healthier mind space that's going to take you further than the latter, okay? The next thing that I want to mention is the action item that I told her after having this conversation with her, because this is something that I feel will not only vastly help her, but will help me as a coach guide her mentally and physically in her training. And I told her to make a list of things that you currently doubt the most and attack the most important ones, right? So I'll give you some examples, and some of you might laugh at some of these. I know I laughed at some of them, but I was like, this is the little things that I think about, you know, where I get really nervous around these things. One of the things that I am slightly nervous around is, you know, I feel like in the past, especially last year at World Championships, I've been really good at putting on what I call the horsey flat, which is not focusing on where everyone's at in relation to me, just zoning in on my movement and in my strategy. And while I think I'm really good at that for some of the races where it's like fast and furious team races, like the one I'm thinking about is the DECA mile teams where Kevin and I are up to win it all. I get nervous about not running fast enough out the gate or running too fast trying to keep up with other people, and I blow my strategy out the window off the first 30 seconds of the race. Like, that's something that I'm doubting of, like, what does that pace look like? How fast can I go to still perform on the lunges and, more importantly, still perform on the rest of the freaking race, right? So that is a doubt that I am nervous about. Another doubt that I'm nervous about is a lot of my strategy for each of my races depends on the assault bike, because that is one of my strongest stations. And that is the reason why I've been able to get really good times this year. And so I know that at World Championships, they have the Assault Elite bikes, which are a decent amount harder than ones that you'll see in a normal gym. And so I'm like, well, crap, like if it takes me out, then my entire strategy is out too. And so thinking about those things, right? So I list out those things and I look at them and I'm able to ask myself, is this true or is this complete crap? And then if I look at it and I see some validity to it, then it's like, okay, well, how can I move the needle in starting to eliminate that doubt and starting to shift my perspective on that thought or that scare alone? And that's what I asked for my girl to do, was write these out and send these to me. And then let's base your training sessions on building confidence around those. Like, that's what we really need to do, you guys, because here's the secret. I truly believe that DECA and any like physical endeavor that you take on, 90% of it is mental. I really do think so. I think that you have some incredible athletes that come to the table, but they never reach their potential because they're mentally not in the right space to do the thing. And so let's spend our time in the training sessions building confidence around those. So when you step up to the starting line, it's not like, oh my gosh, did I feel correctly? Or did I sleep enough? Did I practice this enough? Like, I don't know what to do. What pace am I doing on the ergs? La, la, la. Like, all of us go through the whirlwind of madness in our head, right? As we step up to the starting line, right? How freeing would it be if you stepped up to the starting line and you were just like, okay, I'm nervous, but it's excited nervousness. And I know that this is just the feeling that comes about when my body is getting ready to do something amazing. And so I'm okay with this. And I don't have doubts around anything because mentally and physically and emotionally, I've done everything that I've needed to in this moment or in the moments leading up to this to be able to do the thing that I want to do. So all I got to do is let go of what I can't control, let go of the outcome, and just enjoy it and just execute in the way that I know how to. How amazing would it be if you could walk up to every starting line and feel that way? I feel like an activity as small as this could really, really help you do said thing. So I know that I have my girls working on that. I'm working on that and you know, communicating that with my coach and thinking about that, like that intentionality with each training session that I do of like, okay, here's my list of doubts. What can I do in order to get something out of this that relates to this list of things? And it kind of, you guys, it makes the training session more exciting. It's like, okay, like I have a purpose to be here versus like, oh my God, I have 1,500 calories to freaking get done in this workout. Why me? Like it adds some buy-in to the whole situation, which I think is amazing. Okay. The last thing to help yourself prevent burnout and overtraining, start saying yes to the things that bring you joy. This sounds simple, but it's hard sometimes. And one of the examples that I will give you, I think I already talked about this on the podcast once, is a couple weeks ago, Dave and I went into the gym and we had our plan for, you know, our own workouts and whatnot. And it was someone's birthday in the gym. And we were like, there are a ton of people in here and they're doing this workout. They're doing it in teams and it looks super fun. And I had a choice to make in that moment as they were asking us, hey, do you guys want to join us? I had the opportunity to say no and just focus on the training that was scheduled for me, or I could have a little bit of fun and get a different stimulus and work hard in a different way and feed a different part of me that I wasn't feeding currently, right? Or that I might have not fed in just sticking to my own training session. And that's just community and love for moving and pushing yourself amongst other people. In that moment, I made the decision to say yes to joy. And it's not like I wouldn't have had a good time doing the workout that I was scheduled to do, but my heart was telling me that you're going to get more out of this situation and this training session than you will by going the latter direction. And so I chose that. And it was so much fun. And I still got a lot out of it. And I just think about those those things, right? Like we have to understand the balance of when we need to keep our head down and when we need to focus. But we also have to be able to give ourselves the freedom, not just to pull the plug when we need to, but to give ourselves a chance to just get outside of the box a little bit, to have some fun, right? And I think that this actually comes in two layers, quite honestly. It's the permission to tell ourselves that we can say yes to things that bring us joy. And it's also the boundaries around when to say no, right? And so do you know what those boundaries are for saying no when you need to say no in a way that's going to be healthy for you? And do you know when you need to say yes to certain things, right? That's only something you can answer. Is think about where you spend your time. Take an inventory of how you spend your time, where you spend your time, who you spend your most time with, and what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to. Does that truly align with what it is that's most important to you? I mean, this goes back to fundamentals, guys, of your why, your purpose, your goals, things that drive you. And if you're saying that those things are one thing, but yet what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to, it completely is the opposite of those goals and those visions, well, we got a problem, right? And that's going to continue to just hit you really hard. And then you're going to spend your time and your energy doing the wrong things. And what is that going to do? It's going to create guilt. It's going to create this feeling of not enoughness. It's going to create these continued feelings of scarcity and fear of failure, right? And what is that going to lead to? Doing more of the stuff that doesn't matter, aka overtraining and burnout, right? So get really clear on the boundaries of what you need to say no to and saying yes to things that absolutely bring you complete joy. So you guys, I hope that truly helps you, that these 4 tips and action items will allow for you to sit down and have some silent time to think about what could I do from this conversation today to truly move the needle. And just remember this, you guys, like, we get to do this. We get the opportunity to go after these endeavors. No one is forcing us. There's no expectation for us to do the thing. And if there is, well, then we need to take a look at that and make sure that we're doing things for the right reason. But I just have to remind myself that I get to do this. And therefore, I want to make the most of it by finding those moments of joy, by finding those moments of peace and freedom. So as I leave you today, I want to share with you one more time that as you approach every training session, every race simulation for whatever endeavor it is that you're after right now, chase moments of joy. Because when you do that, you find yourself smiling more within your workouts, you find yourself being more proud of yourself, and you find yourself being more grateful for the fact that this is the life that you live and these are the things that you get to do. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. If this podcast resonated, be sure to rate and review the podcast along with send it to friends and family that need to hear the messages. So stoked, you guys, that we get to take this journey in life together, and I can't wait to share more insightful, wisdom-filled things with you next week on the next episode of Taco About It Tuesday. See you then.